My guest today, coast to coast and worldwide on the Good Life Revolution, with me, Jesse Dillon, at the Good Life, is Apolo Ohno, the winningest gold medal Winter Olympic athlete in history. Did I say that right?
I'll take it. I'll take it.
Anyway, it's very cool to have you in here. A huge fan. You know, it's interesting when we've watched some great athletes through the years. Michael Jordan comes to mind. Just thought he had such a great vibe about him. Peyton Manning, who's unfolding in front of us. And some of these athletes have become great businessmen, just thrive at everything.
They have.
You are the quintessential, on fire, mind-boggling, minds going a mile a minute, but focused. Like, I don't know, I'm sure I've ever interviewed anybody. You are driven from the word go. I mean, you are nothing but energy that is driven. Where does that come from?
You know, I think purely just from hunger and this passion for, I think, creation and passion to go beyond what I thought was necessary. You know, at a very young age, you know, my father had instilled something within me which still resonates today, and that's simply, as cliche as it sounds, Jesse, put your mind to it and you can do it, right? And I think something goes a lot deeper than that. You know, I think when you ask people what their motivations are for certain businesses, and for some it may be, look, some guy may say, I want to be a billionaire. Some guy say, I want to make $1 million. Some guy say, I just want to improve 10% of my salary. Whatever those goals are, I was never satisfied, I think, with the pro-normal approach. When I was 17 years old and we went on an entire a Winter Olympic clinic, meaning all the different Winter Olympic athletes came together for a week-long summit, and we came together and we spoke about what our specific goals were. And I wrote down at the time, it said, when you are retired from your sport, what do you want to be remembered as? This is, I was 17 years old. I just turned 17. And I wrote down, I want to be remembered as the greatest speed skater of all time in the history of the sport.
Wow. At
17, I had no idea what I was writing down. But that was something instinctual within myself, that I was so driven, I think, from an internal drive that is very hard to describe, and something that is beyond me seeking the medals for the medal glory. It was beyond the reasoning behind I wanted to stand on top of the podium and hear my national anthem of my own country being played. It was something, I think, it was something about a personal achievement and a personal excellence that I wanted to go beyond what I thought was possible. And that's transcended, and that's been able to, those attributes that I've learned from sport, those life lessons that are innate amidst many different Olympic athletes, I think are transferable towards any business career and business path. When you mention some of the greats, Michael Jordan, right? You look at Michael Jordan, you look at Peyton Manning, and some of these, Magic Johnson, some of these great business minds in the world we see today. Now they're becoming global leaders, not because of their sports athletic prowess, but simply because they have the mindset and that whether it's a killer instinct, whether it's being a state of flow, whether it's being in the zone, they're able to flip their light switch on and leave it on remaining to attract the right type of business minds around them, build their team properly, be able to have an entire business model and learn and not be afraid to fall flat on their face, right? Sometimes when we say, the reason why we're not improving or we're not learning how do I don't know how to play this instrument is because you never tried because you were afraid to fail. There's so many studies that show when you want to try something, fail, try it, and not be afraid, you will learn the process so much quicker. And we spoke a little bit before, in the previous segment, a little bit about my fascination with brain health and cognitive functioning, and just basically the brain processing power, and how do I upgrade that? How do I improve every single day? How do I essentially give my best chances of becoming more intelligent at the age of 32? Right? We had previously thought the age of 25 is when neurogenesis is complete, and that's when basically your brain is formed into like a rock and it's no longer like a sponge. But what they see now is neuroplasticity within the mind, within the brain. You see these formations and these movements and these memory patterns, they're still very vibrant much, much later in life. And so we look at the brain as, Einstein was at 12% of using his full capacity of what we believe. I think now individuals and people around the world are starting to realize that, for me to make the right decisions, whether it's the food that I eat, whether it's the decision I make in the boardroom, whether it's I want to spend more time with my kids, it comes from the mind, right? And when you have a healthy, clean, fully operational mind that is able to hold intact the type of information that you are processing and categorize that for later use, whether it's memory pattern, et cetera, processing power. That's where it all starts. All great, smart, intelligent, driven people have same commonalities, and that comes from their mindset. Not every single person in the world is looking to be the next Apolo Ohno in the Winter Olympics of short track speed skating, right? Or Ryan Kessler, right? And when you talk about in terms of hockey, that's not what people, sure, I love hockey, I want to play this sport, but what if you could maximize or give yourself the best possible chance of success in any arena, right? I'm a firm believer that we all have innate talents and we have a gift. Jesse, you have many great talents, right? That you've been able to adhere and capitalize on and you know your strengths, right? But how do you improve across the board so that those weaknesses now are becoming very level, excuse me, with the strengths that you already have? And that's what we're seeing today. And I look at this huge influx of university grade college students who, when I speak to them and I talk about, because I'm always so fascinated about what the younger generation, 10 years younger than I am, what their mindset is, what is interesting to them. And now we have kids who are 21, 22, 23 years old questioning the university grade education system and saying, hey, look, this is not how I'm supposed to learn. I believe we need to change this. And it's blowing my mind because when I grew up in this space and when I was, my father was like, I want you to go to Stanford. I want you to go to innovation. I want you to study I want you to be an engineer. Whatever his thought process is, you go to the school, get a great education. And that is the norm, right? But I think it goes far beyond that. And that's when I get excited. We have Peter Thiel now as the Thiel Fellowship, right? And he's saying, look, I'll pay you to drop out of college and study under me. I mean, wow. That has never happened before in the history of university type level education.
Let me ask you this question. You're the co-founder of a very exciting new company called Elysian. Mm. It's 5 years from now. You've just finished a run on the beach. You're standing by the pier at Santa Monica, maybe out in front of shutters. Mm-hmm. You're about to go in and have an iced latte or something fun. And you stop for a moment and you look up and you're very grateful and you say, thank you. We've done it. What has Elysian done for the planet? And what is Elysian 5 years down the road? What's this incredible vision that you're now launching? And what's it look like 5 years from now?
I love that question. The answer specifically for me, and I love the reason why you asked that, because it brings me back to why we started doing this in the first place. Why did I start Elysian Sciences? Elysian Sciences strictly is a movement that I wanted to educate and help give consumers around the world and partners and friends and family the opportunity and tools to be the best that they could possibly be. Purely and simple, improve the quality of your life, quantify it, right? Quantum leap the ability to improve across all boards. I don't care if you're in the boardroom, I don't care if you live at home, I don't care if you are just someone who simply is a weekend warrior. I don't care whatever path or career choice or decisions you decided to make previously. We're going to help amplify that and supercharge your performance in every single capacity. So giving back to the community, whether it's helping an elderly generation combat neuro degeneration where their brain is starting to fade, right? We want to be able to give people initial steps towards brain health early, and also maximize their opportunity to give them the opportunity to be able to absorb the type of information so they can have this process understood fully from the ground, level up all the way till when they reach 60, 70, 80, 90 years old, right? I mean, we see studies now that show, our kids will live way past 100. Right? Now, what is the reasoning behind that, right? And one factor is, look, if I'm 100 years old, I want to make sure that I can function properly with my brain. But in the meantime, when I'm 20, 30, 40, 50 years old, I want to make sure that I'm supercharging every single component of my processing power. And that to me is exciting. So when you say 5 years from now, I'd like to be able to say and stand on that pier, not alone, but with millions of people with us, and saying, we are helping change the way the world looks at performance from a physiology perspective, from a human mental performance perspective, and also changing the way and the health of our kids, our grandfathers and grandmothers, and our current family. Our company, Jesse, I'll give you a little brief background information, it was created strictly out of a need. I was looking for something. For me personally, I was looking for something that I could not find that was out there on the marketplace. Nothing that was to my stringent, most OCD, anal needs of I don't like this product. You know, as an Olympic athlete, I spent so many years of my life being drug tested 7 days a week, 365 days a year, random controlled. You know, I can get drug tested 3-4 times a week. If I'm here today with you, right? I'm here right now. I would have to write down or send an email, let them know that we are here doing this interview and hanging out, so they could come randomly and drug test us here at this station. Wow. They're all over the world. So the types of supplements and ingestibles that we had to adhere to were so ridiculously stringent. I didn't take anything because I didn't trust the manufacturing process. I didn't know what was going on with mixing VAT with this. I didn't want cross-contamination. And purely and simple, I found that most companies were all about the profit margins, right? And so when you're an athlete looking for a 0.001% edge, where 1,000th of a second, which is, you know, the difference of a hair, human hair, that's the difference between winning and getting second place.
Wow.
How do I improve my performance at that level, right? That was the difference for me then. And then so I became completely fascinated after I retired, because I had so many different businesses that I was incorporated with. And you know, being someone, I'm so focused on quality, right, more than anything. And so what I started to do, and this is a true story, if you went in my cabinet today and you looked at my pantry, it looks like a pharmacy. I bought every single raw ingredient from every single corner of the world you could possibly think of. And I had, you know, some of these quantities, they don't sell you by the pouch, right? So like when I used to call this group that was based out of India, I had to buy like 1,600 bottles or something like that, ridiculous, you know. And so I was sourcing and I was basically mixing my own. I became my own little chemist. And you know, my partner, Rod Howe, who's also one of the co-founders, we started discussing and said, listen, if we want to get into this space, Rod, I want to produce something, and I believe we can. I want to get the best minds in the business. I want to produce, if we gave them an unlimited budget and said, listen, I want you to take out all cost factors aside, take a look at the best raw ingredients from around the world. Okay, source them the best, create the ultimate superpower. You know, we always look at the movie Limitless with Bradley Cooper when he took the NZT. If we could take an NZT, we could take something from that movie without the weird side effects. That's what I want, and that's what I was inspired by, right? I mean, that was solely, I wanted something that I could basically give to my father, and also give to, you know, my godson, and feel this is safe. It's efficacious, and there's nothing else on the market.
Apolo Ohno, my guest today, and you're hearing about Elysian for the very first time on The Good Life, coast to coast, worldwide, at goodliferevolution.com.